Alright, hello and welcome to another episode for MC Airsoft. I am Mark. Today we're going to be talking about how to use cover more effectively. Now most fields, unless you're playing outdoors in the brush, which we might talk about that at a future point or future time, most fields are going to be dealing with something that is basically a door, right? You're going to have a solid wall with one line. Now that the door might be mispositioned, right? It might be over to one side, but in most fields, whether you're dealing with the big spools that they use for paintball fields, or you have a window cutout, or even if it's a piece of plywood or something put horizontally. Essentially what you're dealing with is the rectangle. So for today, for video purposes, we're going to be using a door, but most of these things apply to windows and other things, and we can talk about those at a later point if there's interest for that. Or if I just feel like it. Let's be frank about that. This is my channel. I do videos that interest me, or that just pop into my head. So today we're going to be talking about the door. Now I'm going to start off with the door facing in this direction, then we'll pause the recording, we'll swap it so it's facing the camera, and then we'll do it facing that direction as well. Now, as you can see, I got my cutoff line here, right? So what I see a lot of the time, especially from newer airsofters, or airsofters that just aren't really thinking about utilizing cover properly. And I think a big part of not using cover properly comes from having unlimited or a lot of respawns, where they're just trying to get the hits in as quick as possible. They aren't thinking about trying to survive the gunfight. And for those of you listening and not watching, air quotes, right? Because it's not a gunfight, it's a sport, it's a game, whatever you want to call it. It's not a gunfight, but you're shooting BBs at people, right? So one thing I see very common is, so I'm a left-handed shooter. This is a right-handed corner here. What I see a lot of the times is people coming around the corner and not switching shoulders. Now, what's the problem with that? And we'll switch the camera real quick so you can see. Alright, so switch the door, But as you can see, if now this applies going the other way if I'm a right-handed shooter going around the left-handed corner, but whatever. The problem is that as I can peek the cover from here just fine, I can look around, I can see what I can see, but as the rifle comes around, or you could be using a pistol and having the same problem. This is a big target. Now I can camp my rifle and start minimizing that target, but the problem is because we use hop-ups in our guns that put a backspin on the BB, then the BB goes way off to the side, right? That's a problem. So first thing we need to address, that is a airsoft concern, not necessarily a real steel concern, is that we can't cant these rifles, turn it at an angle. You have to keep them vertical, at least for a longer distance. If I'm working in like a 5 to 10 foot range, I could probably get away with canting it, no problem, but I have to keep it vertical. So keeping it vertical means that I'm having to come around this corner and present a large target, almost all the way over to my left shoulder. Now there's a couple things I can do from there, right, to minimize that. I can bump the stock into my other shoulder, which without the door looks like this, right? I can bump it into the other shoulder, not change anything. So that, from coming around cover, looks like I peek the cover, or I can peek the cover here, or like this, doesn't really matter. Whatever minimizes my cover. And then I can bump it and come over to the side. Now this still is exposing quite a bit of my body. So what I like to do is, instead of bumping the stock, instead of just bumping the stock, I like to switch hands. Now I'm cross dominant, right? Shoot rifles left-handed, pistols right-handed, so I still have a lot of the same, especially trigger manipulations, but a lot of the same motor functions I'm still used to doing with my right hand. I write right-handed, I do most things right-handed, but I'm left eye dominant. So I'm still pretty competent when it comes to right-handed. So this is something you're going to need to train if it's something you're planning on doing, if you're not used to doing things with your opposite hand. I know my left hand is actually pretty dumb to anything but pulling a trigger. So coming across here, you can see I'm really minimizing the target. Now, if I'm switching, right, if I just bumped the stock, so my left hand is on the trigger, my right hand is on the gun, the problem is that I have to expose a lot more of my body, and I can't really lean like this. It's rough to do. What I can do is I can position myself in such a way so coming from here, I can turn the body, get more of that shoulder behind it, behind the cover, and I can minimize my silhouette here, right? I can still keep it in the shoulder, but I can start to minimize it, and I can start to lean out from cover. So essentially what I'm doing is something like this. I'm leaning out from the cover. So that's going to allow me to minimize the amount of space or the amount of target that I give to my opponent. I frustrated quite a few people at the last Airsoft game I went to doing that, because you can kind of tell, even though everyone's wearing face and eye pro and all that, but you can tell when people get frustrated. Is I had a very small sliver to hide behind, and I'm not a small person, but utilizing the cover properly, I was able to minimize my target until actually I got shot right in the knuckles. So, you can't minimize everything. Minimizing it, leaning out from cover is going to be good, right? And yes, I can still see through my red dot with my right eye, even though I'm left eye dominant. Doesn't really matter that much. My shots are going to be a little more inaccurate, but due to parallax of the red dot, but it's Airsoft, it's only going to be so accurate to start with. So that's one way of doing it. And that's probably the best way that you're going to be able to do that. Now, there's some arguments. Should I keep shooting? Should I bump the stock? Should I not bump the stock? To me, it comes down to how much cover can you get from that, from either bumping or not bumping the stock. From either shooting right-handed when coming around the right-handed corner, or bumping the stock and not switching hands like that. To me, it comes down to the amount of cover that you can get. If you can't get that much cover anyway, you might just bump the stock over, come around that corner, or if you're moving very quickly, you might just bump the stock over, come around that corner, not really worry about it too much. Because this is always going to be quicker than coming from here, coming over, switching hands, shooting, switching hands, shooting, switching hands, shooting. Now I do that a little bit weird. A lot of people are, they're nice and tight, grab their gun, switch it over, everything's locked and rigid. Personally, I like to go a little bit faster for the sake of losing a little bit more control, but if I can keep rounds on target, or if I can keep the gun on target longer, to me, that's what I'm looking for personally. Now coming around to the other side, it's going to be the exact same thing, so pretend there's a mirror and imagine that yourself. Now you can have the same effect with the pistol, right? So coming around, if I was a left-handed shooter, right, for pistol, coming around this corner is going to be rough, right? Because I'm exposing quite a bit of my body, and as I peek, that's going to be an issue, right? So coming around an opposite corner, don't be afraid to switch your hands, right? Have the hiccups. Don't be afraid to switch your hands, right? So if I am same side dominant with pistol and rifle, coming around this corner isn't really going to be great for me because I have to expose my entire right side before I can bring my left side to bear. So that's something to consider, right? Now, if you're trying to clear the opposite side corner, go ahead and switch that gun over. So coming from here, and I like to break my thumb off of the back, right? Break the thumb off the back, switch thumbs, and then I can switch grips, right? So something like that, right? However works for you, however is fast but still maintains control and you don't end up dropping this on the ground or something, right? So I like to, if I'm coming around this corner, I'm not going to pie it here. I'm going to switch hands and begin to pie it. And if you see, now as soon as my left or my right arm comes on to bear on the target or comes into visibility for the from the target, my pistol comes on to bear and I can present a threat to my opponent, whoever that is, right as my pistol comes around, right? So I'm presenting a target and a threat at the same time, and that's really what a lot of using cover comes down to. Using cover efficiently comes down to is you want to be able to present a threat and a target at the same time, because just like any other, combat sport, whatever, you're always going to give an opening. I do sword fighting, I do other stuff, martial arts, whatever. You're always going to give an opening at the same time that you take your shot. So if I'm coming around this corner, unless I got one of them fancy camera guns, which we can't use in airsoft because it's blind firing, kinda. The camera guns that can manipulate the gun and it's like a carbine stock. Unless I got one of those, I can't see around this corner without my eyes, right? I can't shoot around the corner without coming around the corner, because otherwise that's blind firing. It's a safety issue, right? So I have to present a target, including my arm, right? My arm is a target, not a very big one, but a target, right? So as I'm coming around, I'm going to present a target. Now I can minimize that by pushing out, right? Obviously a straight arm, this is going to be less of a target than this, right? If I'm pieing from here, I have more of a target. If I pie from here, I have less of a target, right? So that's another thing you can do, is that if I'm pieing with a rifle as well, right? If I'm pieing from here, or if I'm pieing from here, my arm is less of a target, but I have to bring more of my body over. If I'm pieing from here, I can tuck, right? What I don't want to do is something like this. You see a lot of airsofters who are chicken winging, right? They're going to take their rifle and they're going to hold it something like this, right? Or like this, which is dumb, but it happens. So you want to make sure that you are pieing around. Now, what does that look like from the other side? So with the rifle, I'm going to come up. I'm a left-handed shooter, so I'm going to come up to this corner. See that it's a right-handed corner, or I'm taking cover just behind this corner. I'm going to swap over to my other side before I start pieing this corner. I don't want to start to pie this corner and then have to swap while presenting a target. So I'm going to swap over because I know I have to deal with this right-hand corner. I refer to corners as to what side, what hand you're going to use to clean that corner, right? To pie that corner. So to me, this is a right-handed corner because I have to use my right hand, or my right hand is more beneficial. This is a left-hand corner because my left hand is more efficient. So I'm going to bump over, which this is all just a great reason to have a 1 point, because you don't have to fiddle with anything. Watch my review on this, the Gunfather Milsim sling. There are some changes coming, but to it, but that should also be available at his web store in a couple weeks or something. Whenever he posts that, they're phenomenal slings. Get a 1 point if you're doing CQB stuff. So I'm gonna come over here. Now, one thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pie with my rifle at the same time as my eye. Now, if I'm not suspecting a target, so if this is a bigger field or like maybe a milsim or something like that, I might come up to the corner and start to peek the corner, looking around. I'll hold my hand out so you can see kind of what I'm looking at, right? I'm gonna pie around, and I'm going to pie with my eyes instead of my rifle, because this exposing just the right side of my face or the left side of my face is going to be a lot less of a target and a lot less attention being grabbed than pieing with, you know, the right side or left side of your body. So I'm going to have my rifle down, I'm going to start pieing, I'm going to look for targets, I'm going to look for threats, you know, and then I'm going to work my way around. Now, I like to plant my foot behind this line, right? So it's behind cover, so, and then lean out a bit, take a little bit of step, lean out a bit, take a little bit of step, lean out a bit, and until I can go around the corner. So as much of my body as possible is behind cover. It takes a while, but it's a lot safer, right? So if I know there's a threat on the other side, I'm going to pie with the rifle. So I'm going to start from here. Now I'll put my gun up close, and we'll talk about that in a second, so you can see what I'm doing, right? So I'm going to pie this. I'm going to lean out, bite off a little bit there, pie out, bite off a little bit there, take a step, pie out, take out a little bit there, right? And I'm going to continue going around until I've cleared this area, right? You can do it quick, you can do it slow. That's going to be up to your situation, but it's going to, in my mind, keep you a little bit safer. And it's going to be a lot safer than trying to pie from this side. Now, if there's a doorway here that I'm trying to pie on the inside, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pie starting from here, looking into the room, okay? I'm going to pie that. I'm probably going to pie that from a rifle. I'd probably want to be back further, but I got a wall here, right? Okay, so I'm going to pie the room starting from here, and I'm going to back off as much as possible. The reason being is that if you imagine a circle, right, the larger the circle, the more you can kind of control that angle, right? Because I am a set size. I have to fill a set gap, right? If I'm here, right, and I'm going to look into this room, okay, I have, like, if I move my head 2 or 3 inches, I'm going to clear probably more of this room, sure, but also I'm going to present a bigger target, and I can't clear this slowly. So I'm going to clear 5 or 6 feet at a time, or 10 feet at a time, you know, depending on the size of the room, which maybe I'm going to go to 10 feet and realize there's someone there, but at that time they now know I'm here as well. So I want to take it in as small chunks as possible in order to clear out little bits at a time until I can get around this corner. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to back off as much as possible, right? Keeping that circle nice and big and clearing that circle, right? clearing that circle still, and eventually I'm going to work around to about as far as I can go until I start bridging around that doorway. So essentially on the ground, I'm going to go in a half circle around that doorway, right? And then once, there's room clearing, we can talk about in a later video. This video is already getting long. Now, another thing you don't want to do, and the last thing I'll hit on, which again, I can go over more stuff in later videos, whatever. Another thing you don't want to do is bracing on cover here, right? Now, it's one thing if you're holding it out in a position for a long time and you know that that's there. One thing I'll do is, let's say this is the top of the cover, right? Let's say this was laying sideways and I was like kneeling behind it or something. I can use that as a barrier stop, right? I can use the foregrip as a barrier stop coming over the top of cover, but you should really not be coming over the top of cover because you're going to have to expose more of your body than is necessary, and you're going to have other issues. That's where people are going to look for you. You should always go around the side of the cover. So you can do that. You can use the rail system coming over to the other side so you can see it. I can use a flashlight. If the flashlight wasn't there, I could use the rail system. I can use that as a barrier stop if I'm there for a long period of time, or if I have to hold an area for a long period of time. One thing I can do as well is I can use this as my third point of contact, hit that barrier. I'm going to hold the doorknob so I don't knock over this door, and I can hold this for a long period of time while minimizing my silhouette that's being exposed, because now I don't have to deal with a second hand up there. I can get more behind it. I can put it right onto that muscle there, which isn't strong, but even for your real world shooters, trust me, ARs don't have recoil, or at least not enough to really worry about CQB ranges. So if you're having problems shouldering it here onto this outside muscle, then work out or something, because I'm a cripple and I can do it. But for 99% of purposes, if you're moving and flowing through a building, whether that's in one man or as a stack or whatever, or you're just going to be holding position for 30 seconds, a minute and under, you don't want to be on that barricade, right? Or whatever kind of cover you have. You want to be backing off far from it, because one, like I said, I can hide better. Two, I can hide more of my body behind it, and I can lean out more controlled to get that target. I can also lean back in. So if I see someone or someone starts shooting at me, especially if they're at long distance, I have the way I'm set up, leaning around this corner, I can pop back in and let those BBs go past, return fire. Especially for airsoft, because frankly, BBs are slow, right? Especially when compared to bullets, right? They're very slow things, and at any distance past I would say 100 feet or so, that's going to depend on your reaction time and all of that. Any distance past 100 feet or so, you should be able to dodge BBs. Unless you're, it's going to deal with FPS and distance and reaction time and all that, but that's my guesstimate, right? But if you're up here, then you have to break and then come off the cover, because I got to get my muzzle back around, or else at very minimum I'm giving my hand as a target. Now, if I'm backed off the cover, I can immediately just come back behind cover. So so those are some considerations for how to make your cover usage more efficient. Because remember, cover is more important than laying down fire. If you use cover appropriately, you can move up distance, you can take ground, you can survive the fight, air quotes, fight longer. Cover is more important than being able to engage 20, 30 people. This isn't Call of Duty. You got to use your cover, right? Not knocking Call of Duty. It's fun, whatever, but you know the type of people, right? Or the type of mindset while playing, right? So use your cover efficiently and use your cover effectively, because the longer you can stay in the fight, the better it's going to be for your team. So with that being said, until next time, stay safe, stay hydrated.